Hello. Hi. Can you hear me? Oh no. Okay. It looks like we're having some technical difficulties here.
Oh,
So,
I can hear you, but
oh good.
no one,
Okay, you can
I
hear
can
me
hear
now.
you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Hey everybody. We have Professor Pt2 back again as the special guest as we continue last week's discussion about reasons why we think Wendi Adelson was involved with the murder of Dan Markel. And today is July 18th, which means it's been 11 years since Dan was shot. So, of course, we send all our thoughts and prayers and good vibes to Dan Markel's family and friends. So, thanks for being here.
Yeah. So you want me to take over, Judy?
Sure. Go ahead and
Okay.
start running the show because you're good at
So
it. Thank you.
Judy's subscribers and fans, she's still having a little trouble with her voice. So I apologize to you because I know you'd rather hear from her, and she's such a great moderator. But I'm going to try to do my best. We thought maybe we would start with something unpopular for, I assume, most, if not all of you, and that is maybe a couple of pieces of evidence out there that point in Wendy's favor. In other words, that would go to show that she wasn't involved. And I'll say at the outset that for at least one of them, there are explanations for it, but nonetheless, would certainly be something that the defense will use. So we're going to start with one of the things we talked a little about the last time, and that is whether Wendi could have been the one who made the call to her brother or to Katie, because if you recall, and I'm sure everybody who's listening in or watching recalls this, that when Sigfredo phoned to say it was done, Katie said, "I know." And so the question is how she could have known. When he phoned, it was before there would have been any news of it out there for anyone. There's no evidence that anybody else was sort of watching the scene, and there would be lots of good reasons why that wouldn't be the case. So how would Katie have known? And the best explanation would be that since we know Wendi was there and saw the police cars and everything else, that she, or probably Charlie and then Katie, knew it from Wendi. But as we talked about last week, from what we know, the times don't match up particularly well. The tracking of Wendi through her phone shows her at the scene a little later than the information that the job was done. In other words, Sigfredo's phone call telling Katie the job was done, where she says, "I know." And so they just don't line up quite right. Leaves an open question how Katie could have known if it wasn't via Wendi to Charlie. And we don't know the answer, and it still seems the best answer if the times worked out a little better. And they, at least as far as what we know right now, they don't work out well enough. So that's
Okay.
where we thought we'd start, and I will pass it to you, Judy.
Sure. So I seem to recall sometimes, I think Sigfredo called Katie at 12:31 p.m. based on the investigator's notes. But then I see this is where whoever is in the chat who really knows this case, please let us know, because the time 12:17 or 12:27 seems to stick in my head, but I can't remember. Is one of those times when Wendi might have left her home versus, where her cell phone could have been? I'm not really sure, but I do recall being a little concerned a long time ago when I first heard about these times. I mean, I guess there's always a chance that maybe the times are wrong. And of
Yeah.
course, they could have all had burner phones and stuff. And as what you were talking about last week, you mentioned that the cell phone specific locations typically can't be pinpointed, right? It has to do more with which general vicinity the person is with their phone. So I
Right.
don't know. This is just a question we're raising that
Yeah.
there's nothing definitive about, how did Katie know that the job was done? But definitely Lewis thought that that was very unusual. So he remembered it.
Yeah. Well, and if anybody would have thought it was unusual. You've just done the murder. And one of the first things that your cohort does is phone to let, the people who were, in charge of setting it up know. And they say they already know. Of course, you're going to be curious and think it's peculiar. I mean, you would think you would be, obviously, you're the first ones to know, and that it would be you that would share the information. So if I were he, I'd be saying, gee, if she know, how could she know? Did they have somebody else here? I mean, what's going on? So yeah, I think he was right to wonder about it. And Judy, I'm with you. Maybe the times are not precise enough as to when she left the house or when the call was made. But and I hope somebody in the chat can help. As I recall, both of them though are not somebody's memory about it. It's more the cell phone data that's showing it, and it's harder to confront, the data. Bishan Mama says 1227. Yeah.
Okay, well, I trust Angela because she knows this case like really,
Yeah.
really well. Thank you. So, but was that the time that she left her house, or does that represent something else, though? I don't know.
I don't know. I do know that at least I think I know. Let me say, I believe that in the evidence, one of the law enforcement people talked about the time she left the house. Okay.
And didn't call till much later when they turned their phones back on. Oh, okay.
Well, that would
Yeah.
explain it then.
So I'm just okay. So RC, who also knows the case very well based on her comments, says she left at 12:15. Yeah. So I seem to recall, I think I Googled this before, but she didn't live that far away from Dan. Maybe it could have taken her 10 minutes or less. I guess it depends.
You took that ride, didn't you, with Fancy Fiction?
Yes.
How long did it take you?
I wasn't really timing it. It just seemed like a really far out of the way place to go if your goal was to go to Mosaic, though. Yeah. So, okay, they said she was at Trescott around 12:30 p.m. Okay.
Well, we don't have to take her word for it, though. I mean, she could be fudging on the times.
Yeah, but no, I think the police officer still wasn't clear either because, he didn't write down exactly what time he saw her vehicle. So, okay, 10 minutes away between Dan and Wendi. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, the bourbon, I recall that the receipt said it was purchased at 12:49. So
her shortcut, well, then the one thing that you can say is her shortcut to go to her former home took another, if she's telling the truth, another 19 minutes to get to the liquor store, which just underscores that the notion that it's a shortcut is just absurd.
But it's also
she could have gotten to Mosaic, couldn't she, in fewer than 19 minutes? And she goes all the way down to Trescott, and then takes her another 19 minutes to get to the liquor store. And she's in a hurry to get to lunch.
Yeah. Oh, wait. But she did have some lag time at the liquor store because she didn't know how to buy bullet bourbon. So she had to ask the clerk, and the clerk commented her on her eyes. So that took up more time trying to figure out.
For a woman who finished extraordinarily high in her undergraduate class, wasn't she Magna, I think? And who did very, very well at a very fine law school. She seems to have a lot of trouble with the kinds of things that 10-year-olds can do. and maybe not 10-year-olds, but I mean, she couldn't drive from Tallahassee to Miami without her parents having to drive up to meet her and drive back with her. I mean, that doesn't sound like an independent, independent person. She can't figure out how to find a liquor store close to where the lunch is going to be. She can't say to herself, I'm in a big rush, I can buy the liquor after lunch. She can't figure out in a liquor store where the bourbons will be. Now I can imagine asking somebody in the store, if you wanted to be, you're in a rush, I know where the whiskeys are, but can you point out, can you just point out where this bourbon is? I mean, that I can imagine, but for somebody in a rush, you spend a lot of time in that liquor store too. At least my view. When I'm in a rush, I don't spend that much time.
Yeah. And then she also went to the Circle K and bought the super glue. So the gas station, I guess she was pumping gas too. The stop hasn't been explained or the time she was there. Yeah, I don't know exactly what time she went there, but the gas station was after the liquor store, going up north towards Mosaic.
And that's also curious. I mean, again, if she didn't know that there was going to be a murder, she had the afternoon free. I mean, the restaurant was pretty close to where the liquor store was. I mean, it was like an hour away. She could have gone and then gotten gas and bought the glue. I mean, it's fair. And she hasn't been asked, if you were in a rush, why did you feel you had to do all these things before meeting your friends for lunch? But again, I don't think that the prosecutors have any interest in doing that. She's got that limited immunity. So the fewer questions like that they ask, the less they have to worry about her saying, you only know this from me and you can't use it against me. So I'm hoping that a lot of these open questions are not open in the sense that there are no answers, but that at least, if not a lot, at least some of them, the prosecutors think they do have an answer or an explanation, but they're not going to use it while Wendi has limited immunity and can then use it as a shield against the evidence ever being introduced against her. So that's my hope.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jared has some very good comments here where it's kind of scattered throughout the chat here.
Jared always does.
Yeah, he's listing his top reasons why he thinks Wendi was involved. The whole Trescott drive-by and her 3 different stories and lies about it. Or was it 4? Police interview, 3 trials. Yeah, I've lost count.
And again, an intelligent person setting up, if not an alibi, at least telling a story would not then contradict it 3 different times on pretty salient points. I mean, you wouldn't do it because you leave yourself open to somebody saying, how could you possibly not remember? And how can you have 3 different stories about what happened? I mean, her behavior and the kinds of things she said it's really curious to me. You would think she could have done a better job creating the story, particularly since if we're correct and she's involved, she knew in advance some of this was going to happen. So she had plenty of time to work something out. Now, I admit going to Trescott may have been a sort of a spur of the moment decision because she couldn't stand not knowing. And maybe she's not. Some people are very smart thinkers, but they need time to think. And some people are smart and very quick. They can immediately come up with something, and it has nothing to do with IQ. It's just the way we're wired. And maybe that's her explanation. But Jared's right. 3 or 4 different explanations for a little interval. I mean, all we're talking about is getting to the street and what she did in about a 3 or 4 minute period.
Yeah, exactly. Did you turn onto Trescott or not? And what did you see? Did you see the crime scene tape? Did you drive up to the crime scene? I didn't drive up to the crime scene. So, but I think you might have talked about this before, but could the prosecution cross-examine her if she were on trial with some of her different responses from the previous trials? Or is
Yeah.
it off limits?
Yeah, and I said last time, I think the answer is yes, but I'm not sure. I did a little research on it, maybe 3-4 months ago, and I didn't find a conclusive answer to it. I mean, because on the one hand, you're never entitled to use, to turn a shield into a sword. In other words, if I give you protection to protect you, you're not then entitled to use it to thrust out and make a different claim. And you're also never protected from perjury. So that would lead one to conclude that the prior inconsistent statements can be used to at least attack her credibility. And for anybody here who's not a lawyer, may not know, when you've got inconsistent statements and a witness is on the stand and you say, but didn't you say, now you say the dress was red, but didn't you, the last time you testified, say the dress was blue? That's challenging on the basis of an inconsistent statement. What you can't use it for is to prove that the dress was blue. In other words, it only comes in to attack the credibility of the witness. And why should I believe you if you say red one time and blue another time? But it doesn't come in to prove, the actual fact that the dress was blue, not red. But yeah, so I would think that the answer, to get back to it, would think that the answer is yes, in particular because immunity protects you only if you tell the truth. But again, the fact that I may say something different doesn't prove that I was lying, because lying requires an intent to deceive. And I could be mistaken, I could have forgotten, I could have misspoken, you may have misheard what I said. I mean, there are all kinds of explanations that are different from what you did was, or what I did was intend to deceive you. So sorry for the length of the answer, but that is my answer.
Great explanation. So did you also know that Wendi consulted with a Castigar expert somewhere around Atlanta, I think? This was in the news maybe a couple of years ago. So again, that kind of makes me think, well, if you weren't involved, why would you be so concerned about your immunity and not wanting to testify at these trials?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I agree with you completely, Judy, because I'm just thinking of me. If I were not involved, but I was peripherally, I was around, and I worried that the police might misconstrue my actions, or what I did might be misunderstood by a jury, I think I'd be pretty careful, even if I was entirely innocent. And the Castigar issue, Castigar is the extent to which you can use immunity. I mean, I think as a good lawyer, I would wonder, just where I stand. Now, she's also the lawyer who never looked at the indictment and didn't know what immunity meant when she testified. So she gives an inconsistent picture of how well versed she is in some aspects of the law. But I think I would be really careful, and I'd want to know, just what am I looking at here?
To consult with all the legal experts
she
could afford.
Particularly if you've got money and you can, you can do it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I seem to recall, because I made a short video about it, she did say immunity is freedom from prosecution, but she did seem to not understand what contempt of court was, though. Yeah.
But she only said freedom from prosecution after she was pushed by Georgia Kaplan about it, because first she said it means I can't be prosecuted. And then Georgia Kaplan asked her a couple of other questions, and then she agreed that she could be prosecuted. She didn't come out saying it, as I recall.
Oh, okay. Well, see, you have
maybe somebody in the chat will know which it was, but I think she started out not saying it and then came around to it pretty quickly.
Well, that's the way she answered lots of questions.
Exactly.
That she won't give a direct yes or no. It's always going to be meandering and redirecting, trying
Yeah.
to commandeer the questioning.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about this? This is where, you guys note that I'm pretty convinced that Wendi was involved. Whether we can prove it is a totally different thing. But this is where a lot of people have said her parents and brother would never, ever murder her kid's dad without her approving it. But I mean, on the other hand, her mother seems pretty unhinged and controlling, like she acts like she knows what's best for her children. And she, but the way that Wendy's brother, the way that Charlie and Donna talked about Wendi was as if she was like some idiot who couldn't control her own life. They needed to give her advice. They had to tell her who she should date and how she should behave with Dave, for example. So, I mean, I could see it in them to plan it without her approval, but in the grand scheme of things, I think ultimately she did approve it and take part in it. But, just simply saying, oh, no, they just in general wouldn't murder him, without her approval. I don't know. I don't really agree with that.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. The only thing I would say to that, and I think you're right, actually, the only thing I would say to that on the other side is to do it and not tell her, and then have the information come out later. Now, maybe they didn't expect, obviously never expected Katie to be found to be involved in finding Sigfredo and finding Luis Rivera and all the rest of it. But you do run a risk if you do it that way, that if then the information comes out and you're arrested, that the sister you didn't inform might then testify against you. And I don't know what their picture of her, how much they felt that they could trust her. Maybe they felt they could trust her in terms of not doing it deliberately, but couldn't trust her because she was impetuous and all of that. Couldn't trust her to avoid saying something that would incriminate them after the fact because she was so excitable about it. So I don't know. I think I am persuaded by you, but for the fact that there's some evidence, I think, that shows she had to know. Some of it is really inferential, like spending 19 minutes on the phone or whatever it was when the TV repairman is in the house, ostensibly just to find out from your brother whether you should repair the TV that the repairman says isn't repairable or buy a new TV. And again, this is the day when she's in a huge rush, and yet she takes that much time. And even more than that, I think for me, maybe the most telling piece of evidence or piece of information is that she was the only one placed to be able to tell everybody when Dan was going to be in town. And I mean, certainly the hitmen coming up from Miami wouldn't have known that. Charlie's in Miami, Donna's in Miami. Somebody had to know, and they certainly weren't in contact with Dan. They couldn't have called him and said, hey, are you going to be in town this weekend? Somebody had to get the information and somebody had to convey the information. And I just can't see anybody else besides Wendi in that position.
Yeah. Well, plus the fact going back to the 2013 to 2014 emails between Donna and Wendi. So Donna did have some crazy ideas of how they should try to persuade gibbers to agree to let Wendi move away with the kids. And apparently Wendi did put her foot down and she didn't agree to do these stupid ideas to play with his mind or to offer the 100,000. No, it was $1 million offer. So if she had the authority to turn down those things, you kind of assume that they would have consulted with her and also taken into account her wishes with such a huge plan. Yeah. And Donna's here too. Welcome, Dawn. How are you doing?
I'm sorry, I look like I just got out of the shower because I just got out of the shower. Sorry, I'm late. A little emergency. Those are really good points. That's an interesting way to to look at it, Judy, because if she had, as you said, the authority and she was involved enough to discuss that whole $1 million idea, bonehead idea, I guess you'd call it, she would know what else was going on. That's not a far reach to understand that they would want her approval or her nod, let's just say, on anything else they might have done. I agree. And hi again. Sorry.
Well, and plus,
Fine.
Donna is she cannot keep her mouth shut about anything, even to the extent that she's in jail and getting herself incriminated. Yeah. So the idea that she'd be able to keep something this significant away from her daughter, particularly since they're going to rush out of Tallahassee as soon as the murder has happened, right, just seems to me it's hard for me to imagine that's possible. We have no evidence that I know of that Donna was able to keep a secret that was important to herself without sharing it widely, or at least within the family circle. None that I know of. And I don't see why this would be the time. And Wendi had to be complicit in the TV issue, unless you believe that TV did break by itself, or what the 3-year-old could have thrown a shoe at it. And I was going to try on my TV.
Or remote.
Yeah.
Right.
Could break
have
the screen. It's impossible to if you believe that TV was broken deliberetely and that appointment was set up to provide some sort of alibi, then you cannot believe that she had no involvement and no knowledge.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
And didn't Jeff say something in his interview and it's common for criminals not to be able to keep a secret. They can't keep their mouth shut. That's usually what does them in. But he did say Wendi had a hard time not talking about certain things as well. And now it may have only been to him or to a very small circle of friends, not to everybody. Like Donna was a little bit more out in the open and willing to put her thoughts into emails and that kind of thing. But wouldn't be surprised if down the road we hear more about things that Wendi shared about at least her feelings, and that might give us more, as Judy likes to call them, breadcrumbs as to her actual complicity. I feel like she has to have been the instigator. I mean, the reason for this whole thing. And I agree. It's really hard to believe that she would be oblivious to this entire thing going on around her, without any knowledge. And as you mentioned, though, Joe, it takes more than knowledge, right, to convict. Right. So I keep going back to the Brooks Houck trial in Kentucky last week that got a guilty verdict. And there really wasn't any strong evidence that indicated he had knowledge himself. It was his mother. It was, his brother. There wasn't the kind of breadcrumbs that we have in this case where there were emails about how much they hated, Crystal or that kind of thing. It was much more obscure, and yet the jury was able to cross that line. A lot of people think unfairly, some people. But what will it take? How do I ask this? What would be the tiniest thing that it would take, the smallest thing that it would take to change her from just having knowledge to having involvement?
Well, the involvement doesn't have to be major. There's a Florida Supreme Court case, and I'm not going to remember now, in which they reversed the conviction. I think it might have been a case that Tim Jansen was involved in, where it was the mother and the boyfriend. It was the alligator in the swampland
Mike Wilkins. Denise
and I think her conviction was overturned because there wasn't enough. Florida Supreme Court said there wasn't enough evidence that she was involved beyond the fact that there was evidence that she knew. So here, I do believe that it's inferences from the evidence that you're going to have to use, but the fact that the killers knew that Dan was going to be at home and she was the only one placed to do it could be enough. Certainly it would be enough if in fact she told her brother, hey, Dan's going to be at home this time. That's unlikely to be the evidence. It's going to have to be inferences from trying to think what else. The going to the scene, if indeed she was supposed to be doing it to let everybody know that it had happened, would be enough. There are lots of places where, not lots, but there are several places where I think she did something that would be sufficient, but I don't know that there's any kind of evidence that's so clear and conclusive, however small. Each piece requires that you fill in the dots a little and explain the behavior in a particular way. So, but we don't know what else to do. Go, sure.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I just put in the chat a link to a very old live stream show I did a long time ago, focusing on that Denise Williams decision. But ultimately, she's still in prison, though,
Yes.
because the only thing that got overturned was her murder conviction.
Yes.
So they still got her on conspiracy at least.
Exactly.
So she didn't totally get away with it.
No.
Yeah. So
You're
that's
right.
a good thing. There are other charges that could be potentially brought.
So in that case, the Supreme Court overturned the jury's decision. But did they say she had never been charged? Was it overcharged by the process? On what basis could they overturn a jury's decision?
They said there wasn't enough evidence for the jury to convict of the murder charge as they understood the elements that had to be proved under Florida law. But Judy's exactly right. There was a conspiracy charge, and that conviction stood.
Mm-hmm. And that's an interesting point, because all of the defendants that have gone to trial for this case have been charged not with just murder, but also conspiracy and some other lesser included, right?
Right.
So in Kentucky, they may have different standards. It may go to a Supreme Court as well, but at least they do have the conviction. And with in his case, I don't believe. I'm sorry, I'm not going to even get all into this, but they have whole different jury instructions that were very confusing. But I believe conspiracy was included, but it was kind of
And let me clarify a little. For conspiracy, you have to show an agreement. Right. So the issue with regard to Wendi wouldn't be simply knowledge. It would be that she agreed that it should go forward. Then the major acts don't have to be committed by her. And in theory, under conspiracy, she doesn't have to do any particular act, because if you find the agreement and the intent, then the act of any is the act of all. So you wouldn't have to find something that she did herself. But that's the theory. For a jury, it's usually helpful to be able to show something. And the issue is, how do you show agreement? You can show knowledge. How do you show agreement? And then you really do have to look at what she did that would indicate that she agreed. So that's how you get into the conduct part of it. You've got to show that she not only knew, but she agreed that they go forward. So how do you show that, the agreement?
Well, what comes to my mind is the fact that she told Jeff, according to Jeff, in all seriousness, that Charlie had previously looked into a hitman, and she wasn't saying that she was opposed to it or anything. It was quite actually casual, and he said chilling. So that would be one huge piece that I would think.
See, I wouldn't find agreement there. And that's the problem. If I was on a jury, that's the problem. I mean, yes, it shows that she knows maybe he's capable of murder, that he wants to murder, that she knows they're engaged in thinking about murder, but you got to show that she agreed with it. And that's the P. And for you and I, you and me, we're going to differ on whether that's going to be enough, which is why finding something a little more,
Sure.
or even more little pieces is so important.
Well, I agree. I'm just throwing that out as to what I know about it. I don't know that if I were actually on the jury, if it would convince me either. Because I try. I don't know in this case if I can. I try to be like the potential juror who keeps an open mind and looks at both sides. I think it would take the defense really having to, I don't know, I cross-examine regarding that point of Jeff and see what comes of it. But I do agree with you. As a juror, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just fascinating to me in light of the Brooks Howe conviction recently. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you guys know the answer to this? I don't think I have heard anything about moving trucks being lined up before the murder. I think that's just conjecture. Have you heard about that?
Not in any of the trials.
Yeah, because I recall Fancy Fiction might have mentioned that apparently there's some male high school teacher who is very good friends with Wendi as well as Charlie. He seemed like the type of guy that was probably a very young teacher who palled around with the high school kids or something. So he happened to live in Tallahassee. And supposedly he helped Wendi later pack up or move or coordinate moving her stuff. So that's just a rumor, but I haven't heard anything about moving trucks lined up beforehand.
So if there were, again, that doesn't show anything in terms of our most recent, what we were just discussing about Wendys knowledge or approval of the plan to murder Dan. This is
well, she probably knew if she was already lining up moving trucks,
Right.
So, yeah.
At least knew, right.
Yeah. So let's see here. Yeah, we talked the last time about Wendy's total callousness towards Dan, even after he was murdered, making these comments to Sarah saying that he got whacked and joking about his head being blown off. That's just horrible. It's like, just think of how Wendi made that face when Georgia Kaplan asked her, was Dan's murder your father's big birthday present? And she gave this like really indignant look on her face. Yeah. She said, what a horrible thing to say.
Right.
And Georgia Kaplan was like, well, as if to say, well, you have some nerve to be making that comment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. Okay, Donna is very, very impulsive. Yeah, can you believe the nerve, if it's true, that even after all this, that maybe she was still trying to bribe someone to testify for her? Of course, that's just all allegations, but sounds like it.
Well, leopards don't change their spots, do they?
Yeah, as Sherry Bennett said to June during her police interview, it's really hard to get a leopard to change its, what was it, leopard to change its stripes? Yeah, can't get a leopard to change its stripes. That's funny. Yeah. Okay, so Jared believes that all of them knew the plan. Yeah. I mean, I think so. I'm a little less with Harvey, but definitely with Wendi. Yeah, so she would blurt out things, not in her self-interest, the TV.
Oh, okay, Sean. Yes, along the lines of what I was saying, that she would blurt things out. So that's what he said. That's right. I think, there's been enough time that I don't know, from what we know about crimes, it's really pretty impossible for criminals to just never say a word to anyone about things that give them away.
Sigfredo has so far.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
True.
Very strange.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what about Wendi telling her family when Dan was going to be home? Yeah. So it's kind of tough because she could just explain that text that she made by saying, "Look, we had joint custody of these kids, so I had to know his schedule." But it is weird that she specifically said she wanted to do something with the kids on Wednesday. So if that were the case, why do you need to know from that whole span of, was it Monday through Friday or Tuesday through Friday, something like that?
Yeah.
So what do you ladies think the argument would be that, okay, so Donna knew Dan's schedule from Wendi. So it could be that it was Donna who was orchestrating this with Charlie.
Well, I
Is
mean,
that
in
possible?
general, that's a good thing to think about, but we do have evidence that Wendi had these specific calls or texts or who knows, messaging back and forth with Charlie, who's already been convicted of murder that
Yeah.
morning. Oh, yeah, and of course, someone mentioned again that text she gave to Charlie about "this is so sweet." So it's like,
Yeah.
well, what was that about? Because
Yeah.
she did seem shocked when Kaplan confronted her with that text.
Right.
And,
She used the wrong
and
phone.
I would say with regard to Donna knowing, think about that a little. One could argue, Wendi could argue that she just happened to mention to Donna that Dan was going to be out of town. But that doesn't jibe with these murderers driving 8 hours from Miami to do the hit, and they knew for a couple of days in advance. So the idea that it was just a casual Wendi just telling her mother Dan's going to be in town doesn't work. Because they had planned ahead. If Donna knows that, it seems to me it has to be more purposeful coming from Wendi as to the fact that Dan will be in town. I mean, on its own, it looks fine, but matched to the behaviors by the rest of them, I don't find it very persuasive that it was just her keeping her mother informed of, what her ex was doing.
So we could expect, if Wendi did have a trial, that would be something that the prosecution would clarify, to fine tune to a great deal, so that there's no doubt in the jury's mind that it was actually Wendi, not Donna, who had Dan's schedule and shared it.
Well, they're certainly going to point out that Donna couldn't have gotten Dan's schedule from Dan. And why would
Right.
Donna try to get, and who else would she get the schedule from? Is she going to call the law school and ask, where is he going? I mean, he hasn't published it anywhere that we know of. So it has to come from Wendi.
Right. There was a
Seems to
little bit of implication in one of the trials that he could have mentioned travel plans or speaking engagements on his website, which is
Okay, so then you have to assume that Donna is trolling his website to find information as to when he's going to be in town. That just doesn't, I mean, if I run a jury,
Wendi.
that one I wouldn't buy in a million years.
Okay. That's why I wanted to ask. Yeah,
I
exactly.
wouldn't buy it. Would you? I mean, that one just, that's almost as bad as Luis Rivera being expected to troll, or Sigfredo to troll the website, the law prof, to find out when they should come up to Miami to do the hit.
Exactly.
It's not quite as bad, but it's pretty close, I think.
Exactly. Wendi is the blog.
Yeah. I mean, they had to get these fine details because this was their last chance to hurry up and kill him, because they had already come up before in June to try to commit the murder. So yeah, I mean, just like I said the last time, it's very, very doubtful that they wouldn't want to know specifically about what Dan was doing and his whereabouts, especially to make sure the kids weren't there.
I think
they
it's
don't wanna kill him.
impossible. I mean, they were two, you wouldn't consider them masterminds as criminals by any means, but I think the idea that they would drive up on a whim, an 8.5-hour drive, renting a car, not knowing for sure that the victim is going to be there, I don't even think at their level of behavior, I'd believe that that's what they did.
Well, my thought is that I don't think the Adelsons, allegedly all of these things were true, would take that chance because they're going to be out money every time that they do that. I think they're so money conscious, right? That they wouldn't want to send them. And wasn't, I think, something that if there were a trial for Wendi, that would come up in more detail would be, it was only a week after Dan's death that there was a hearing that could have exposed activity by her that could have put her bar license in jeopardy, right? Was that not the case?
I don't think there was actually a date set yet, but it would have happened eventually if he hadn't been killed. Yeah. Do you recall that, Joe? Was there actually a date?
I don't know. I thought there was something close to the time of the death that was going to go on in the divorce, not the divorce proceeding, but in the
post-divorce
issues with regard to the money.
Yeah, Stephen Webster said he was planning on filing something, or something had just been filed that day.
Yes.
Yeah, but I still don't recall there being an actual hearing scheduled. But
that may be true.
But ultimately, there was no hearing anyway.
Yeah, I remember Georgia questioning. It was the time when Wendi had the volume of the stack of folders, the binder, and Georgia asked her about that, and Wendi said, well, she didn't want to answer that it was true, and she never did. I don't know. I kind of would have liked Georgia to just let her sit there and sift through for 5. I don't care how long it took for her to not come up there, but she doesn't need to until it's Wendy's trial, right? So
right.
Yeah. Someone had a question further up, so we'll post this question to Professor Pt2. Okay. What about? Wait a second. There's a different question. There's a question about whether Wendi could be charged with obstruction of justice.
For lying?
Well, I don't know, because in her police interview, she did kind of try to give some ideas, but giving potential ideas of people who definitely didn't commit the murder, I don't know, but that wouldn't be obstruction of justice.
No, I don't think that would be obstruction. And she never was interviewed by them after that first interview. So right. I don't know. I know you both have gone back and listened to it. I can't do it. She drives me crazy, and I just can't. I can't do it.
It's hard.
So you're in a better position to know. But I don't think she lied about anything. She may have said, I don't even remember her saying she didn't recall. She provided information. She may not have provided full information. She gave them her phone. I don't think there was anything in there that would be, in that interview, that would be obstruction. I don't think so, but you'd have to look at the elements of obstruction in Florida to see if there's anything that might match up.
Because she could say, well, those were just ideas that came into my head thinking about Amy's ex-husband, or what else did she say?
She mentioned Jeff Lacasse.
Yeah, after her friend brought it up.
Yeah.
And then she was like, yeah, isn't Jeff a jealous person? Yeah.
Could it be considered obstruction that, okay, I had a thought and it's gone now. I thought of one way. Let's see, what did she say? Okay, you'll have to come back to me. I feel such a stressful day. My brain's not working, but it'll come back. It'll come back.
You just got attacked by an animal. I'm so sorry. Are you feeling okay?
I'm feeling okay. I got getting new antibiotics. The bleeding stopped, sort of. I didn't get attacked.
Oh.
Okay, so I saw my neighbors trying to get a kitten. It looked like a kitten. I've got experience getting kittens out. I have a little method. I play YouTube kittens meowing, and they'll come, and then I give them a little treat. Well, it's just that there were like loads of people, and the kitten was like kind of upset, and I got the kitten to eat the little tube treats out of the dish, and so I was trying to get it to come to my hand so I could pick it up and put it in the carrier and bring it to safety. And so the tube treat, the little slimy treat, was on my finger, and he was so hungry that he bit my finger and tried to go off with it. So he like my arm. So I had to pull my hand back, and it's like got bit under the fingernail. It's just, And so the cat, I had to then get the cat, more importantly, even then, because it has to be in quarantine for rabies for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Did you have to get a tetanus shot then?
I got a tetanus shot more recently, a couple years ago, because my cat bit me.
You know, I am not I honor people who love animals, but you have given me now 2 more instances to bolster my view that they should have their world, and I'm happy in mine, and I'm happy to look at them and wave, but that's as close as I want to get.
Well, my cat, I had a serious injury from my cat, and I was just trying to give her a bath, and she did not want a bath. And but she doesn't normally bite me. Like, that was kind of an unusual thing. She's never bit me since or before that. But this one was starving. It was hi Chelsea. It was starving and skinny, and I just felt so bad for it, and I didn't want it to get hit by a car. And so, it was I'm not, you don't have to feel bad for me. I'm an adult. I knew I had risk. You always risk something when you do something like that. But so then I called the Humane Society officer and said, you have to come get this cat so I can go to the urgent care and get treated with antibiotics and stuff. And because they'll put you on IV antibiotics usually, but I'm on antibiotics already for a staph infection. So I'm somewhat protected, but anyway, we're figuring it out. But they couldn't come. They had another animal emergency. So my girlfriend came and literally just got the cat to walk right into the carrier, which is what I probably would have done next. But I was just like, and it hurts like crazy, but I'm fine. It'll all be fine.
I'm sorry about it.
Well, we're glad you're here. You made it.
I made it. I a little bit
show up, so
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's address this, because I feel hopeful, because they did at least get the WhatsApp messages between Harvey/Donna and Scott Radius. Of course, that's a lot more recent.
Yeah.
So I have no clue if they're able to get anything from 2014, though.
Right.
Well, they don't have, Wendi, I'm assuming, doesn't still have that phone. I don't know how long the cloud keeps things before they disappear. That's, I'm sure, the wrong verb. They said that they did not, I'm going to give you another wrong verb, download all the information from Wendy's phone on the day that she was interviewed. That was their response at the hearing when Donna's lawyer said, they haven't gotten everything yet. And one of the things was Wendy's phone. So one issue is how much better the technology is and whether it could access some of that. But the other issue is whether the raw data is available anywhere now, 11 years out.
Yeah.
And that's something I certainly don't know.
Right.
Okay. Okay, did anyone think it was so weird they laundered the money in the washer? Well, that's just a conjecture. We don't know for sure.
Right.
I think people were cracking so many jokes about it that it has kind of become fact. But Katie was actually just guessing. She said she thought maybe his mom had washed the money because weeks later, after she put the bag of cash in her closet, she took it out and it was moldy. So, it's just a guess. So I was kind of surprised that Rashbaum didn't cross-examine Katie about that, but she just said it on the stand, from what I recall. Yeah. So So once again, I don't think that's like totally strong because it's not like Katie actually saw Donna washing the cash, nor did Charlie tell her, hey, my mom washed it, so there are no fingerprints on it.
I remember looking that up to see if that was a thing after we heard that testimony, and evidently that is done occasionally to take, I don't know if it's fingerprints or DNA or whatever, but I mean, it is not out of the ordinary. I think they know what laundering money is and laundering money, like the difference between laundering money literally and laundering money figuratively in the legal sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did it, if she did do it. It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. But yeah, you're right. What kind of evidence is that?
Yeah, it's conjecture. But although, remember, Katie did say that Charlie was very careful about putting the instructions into the big envelope, that he supposedly used gloves so his fingerprints wouldn't get
Right.
on the paper.
Right.
He was it that he used a printer at his office to print out the info so it couldn't be traced to his home
His ink.
computer or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like they were trying to be ultra careful. So I wouldn't put it past Donna to literally wash the cash before they stapled it together and put it in the bags.
That's right. It would have had to been unstapled, washed, and then restapled, right?
Yeah,
Well,
because it
Charlie
seemed
did
like
the
they always,
stapling. Did Donna staple also?
maybe it runs in the family. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
but there again, assuming that the information turns out to be accurate, right? She washes the money, he wears gloves, and then he staples the money, which is an unusual thing to do, and he was known to staple money. I mean, the
Yeah.
the way they went about trying to be clever in this crime is just extraordinary. You do three things and maybe overdo, and then that one thing that you shouldn't do, you merrily do without even thinking about it.
It's about the TV. Or wait, no. What was it that she said?
What? She said this TV is about 5.
Yeah. Or no, when she was whispering to Charlie about after she got confronted by the FBI undercover agency. What did she whisper? She whispered something because Charlie would not stop asking her. Well, it's
Yeah,
about
she said this TV is about 5.
Yeah, she was whispering.
That's what she said. Yeah.
Like
So,
if you whisper, it's not going to be picked up.
He
yeah,
thinks,
like,
he
that's
thinks it may be a setup. He's worried that it may be that the information, that the telephone call may be recorded. And yet he pushes her to answer a question that had she answered without, trying to not say things, could have incriminated him. It's just unbelievable.
She couldn't say no to that child. Like she should have just said, we'll talk about this in person, like hang up. And she couldn't say no. She couldn't say no to Charlie. She had to answer him because he asked. That was a weird dynamic, a little glimpse into their dynamic of their relationship.
Yeah. But it shows how great the bump was, because remember, after Donna said this TV is about 5, Charlie then said, he asked you for 5,000 or he asked you for $5,000. It's like he instantly knew like what this TV is about 5 meant.
Right.
So what a dope. He couldn't pick up on the fact that his mom was trying to get him to shut up and let's find a time to meet in person.
Yeah. Although that was the beginning, so you could see how they might have thought by now they got to buy away with things, and so it took him by surprise. But yeah, he definitely couldn't keep quiet, Charlie, and Donna less so. But I'd say Wendy's probably more careful, probably because of her legal training. Was more careful than both of them. She didn't respond to Donna's emails. Right? She probably did respond, but not by email.
Yeah, she probably. Well, I feel like they saw each other almost every day because Donna helped her so much with the kids. So she probably just did all the communications in person.
Right.
Yeah. How smart, huh? Unlike Charlie.
Right. Right. Because she knew better.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that points towards Wendy's involvement or at least knowledge?
Let me see, because I'm trying to bring up my
Yeah, let me
Bring
look.
this.
thing. Okay. Yeah. So we talked about this stuff about the I know response and the two inmates that talked about Sigfredo getting drunk and saying the Adelsons hired him and they had gotten ripped off the previous year for $50K. Okay. Yeah, the changing the profile picture. I know this isn't like big proof, but it's still interesting. The fact that Wendi changed her Facebook profile pic to this one where she was showing tons of cleavage and it looked like it had been photoshopped by
Yes.
Harvey. That's what Cass guessed.
Yes.
Was her dad liked to Photoshop her pictures. Isn't that kind of gross?
It's really weird.
She's like this grown woman, like whose dad photoshops their pictures to make them look extra sexy.
That's just too much. That really throws me. Jeff and Georgia questioned Wendi about this, about her alleged double life of cheating on Jeff and others, right, in the past, and that and what he called low impulse control also. So which is I also generally, low impulse control will make somebody be a talker as well. So it seems like she's able to not be a talker, but still not have impulse control when it comes to other things. So I wonder about her constant allegations on the stand that Dan hurt her so badly, and that of course her family, they weren't fond of Dan because he hurt her, right? He hurt her. And to me, that's not evidence or anything, but it just again, it shows the profile of this person who's willing to sacrifice the reputation of somebody who's been murdered and can't defend themselves, like right in front of his parents in the courtroom. Like they're right there, they can hear what she's saying, in order to make herself look innocent. And I don't think she would be trying so hard to do that if she wasn't hiding complicity. Just
yeah, like all her behavior since then. It just seems bizarre because, well, I mean, I still think it is also bizarre that she wouldn't otherwise testify unless she had immunity.
right. She's not that interested in finding the truth.
Yeah, she's not forthcoming. She didn't contact the attorneys or the investigators later to freely talk with them, to give info, or, it's just like the whole family dropped the subject and didn't even want to talk about Dan's murder.
They were so consumed with hating him, and then he's gone, and it's just like, we're not talking about me. Yeah, there was a lot of that with her, and just kind of framing her role in this, or her potential role in this, in terms of her personality, basically, and her willingness to, disparage Dan at every chance, even today, even now. And I can't imagine that if she went to trial and took the stand too, that the jury wouldn't notice that. That would be two big ifs, of course.
Well, here's a question for our esteemed law professor guest here. So, could could the prosecution mention that Wendi refused to testify at 4 previous trials unless she had that use immunity?
Well, that really implicates her right not to incriminate herself. So I don't think the judge would let that in unless for some peculiar reason she testifies that she helped all the time and was willing to help and open the door to them being able to say, this. But that's tricky. Judges are very careful when it comes to the privilege against self-incrimination about giving a wide, maybe a wider area than they need to, but they're very, very careful about it. So
Sure.
they're going to clearly err on the side of caution.
Okay. But just like in the second trial, when Wendi said she's been nothing but helpful, then that kind of, like you said, opened the door where Christopher DeCoste could ask her, like, what have you done?
That's a smoother way of asking the question. What did you do? What have you done as compared to, but you wouldn't come and help by testifying unless, because to say you got a grant of immunity is to say that you had something that you had a right not to talk about because it might incriminate you. That's the problem with getting in that area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, what about, let's say, if Detective Isom were witness, could he also talk about how he tried to call Wendi that Monday after Dan's murder, and the call dropped and he never heard back from Wendi again?
Didn't somebody testify to, because I have this vague memory that somebody said they never tried, maybe it was with regard to Donna and Harvey, that they never tried after the first time. Do you remember that? Anybody in the chat remember that? Dawn, do you remember that? There was something.
Well, I recall Isom did get to say something about that, maybe in Katie's second trial or one of the previous trials, because he didn't testify at Charlie's trial.
Right. Was it Isom or was it the FBI?
It was Isom at maybe Katie's second trial, for sure.
So that sounds familiar, Joe. I do kind of recall that they said they didn't try again, which is not helpful. Like if they would have continued to try.
Yeah, what law enforcement does on occasion, but what we all do is, to the extent it's a negative, we don't go after it so then we can use the negative. When I was in the prosecutor's office, for example, there was a case in which the defendant shaved and cut his hair right after the murder. I think that's what was going on. And they never, because the hair was gone, they never pursued the absence. As a law professor, when I had law clerks working, and they would look up something for me, they would never list the places they looked where they didn't find anything, only when they found something. And I would say, when I go look at this, I have all these questions that could be answered if you had just said you looked and didn't find. And now I'm asking you, did you do this? Did you do that? If you told me that there was nothing, it could have avoided it. And law enforcement tends to do the same thing because we all do. You don't think about providing evidence to prove the negative.
Right.
So you can then say, in this case, we tried 7 times after that and they never responded, as compared to saying we tried once and we knew they weren't going to ever cooperate, so we didn't do it again. It's so much stronger to say we tried 7 times and they said no each time. But we just don't think that way typically.
Right, because they're not thinking that far ahead in terms of how is this going to play out in a trial. And who could, because so many scenarios, like you can never know how many things you should do differently because it might play out a certain way. So they're just in their own. That's a good point. That's a really good point. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, instinctively, I don't know if they testified to this, but sure, they were probably like, yeah, they lawyered up, as the comment just mentioned. I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name of the commenter, but they lawyered up. So the police knew they weren't going to get anywhere until they formally had an interview with a lawyer present down in Miami, because that's where they were.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can see how the cross-examination had Harvey, let's say, been on the stand, would be more powerful
Yeah.
if you could say, didn't we try 5 separate times? And you said no 5 times. It's just we're not wired to think about, how it would play out and how you would prove something and what would help.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, and every time I've ever tried to do that, it always backfires. It's like it never turns out the way you think it does anyway. As to Harvey, I think this is what the thought I had earlier that finally came back. I find his not knowing and being involved about the same likelihood as Wendi not knowing and being involved in this.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I just have always felt that way. So I've never been of the mindset that Donna just did all these things without his knowledge. Never.
I think they didn't, and they talked about it with regard to the bump. Let's not tell him because he's just going to have a fit. I don't think they necessarily communicated when they hit bumps in the road, to use bump in a different context, because of his reaction. But I do think that they had to have told him, in particular with regard to the money. I mean, you looked at that conversation that he had with Scott, where Charlie, for reasons, I understand the reasons, but it was still crazy, gave him money to buy that property. And where were they? Were they in Vietnam? Where were they?
It was.
But didn't have his name on any deed or anything that would prove that he gave the money for it, because somebody who was not a citizen couldn't buy property, so there was no record of it. And Harvey tried like crazy to get Scott to return the money. I mean, somebody's so focused on that.
Right.
It's hard for me to believe that he isn't noticing that the dental office is paying money to somebody who didn't work there. Didn't notice that Donna had all that money that she's handing over to Charlie, the night of the murder. So it's just impossible for me to believe that he was completely out of the picture and not involved.
Same.
But easy for me to believe that if he's as volatile as they said he was, that they wouldn't keep him up to date when things were going wrong.
Sure. And not necessarily because of his health, but as you mentioned, his volatility.
Yeah. I was just re-listening to one of those post-conviction Charlie jail calls with his mom and dad together. And Harvey seems like a very active participant. Like he's all, he's just part and parcel of their gang. So he's not like some feeble brain cancer survivor type person who like can't hear and everybody does stuff without his knowledge.
He can't get in an Uber at the airport and find his way home on his own.
Yeah. Well, a couple of years ago, I spoke with a former Adelson employee who said that Harvey knew everything about the finances. Like he was all up into it because that's his business, and he cares about money. So it wasn't like Donna could have just done all sorts of stuff behind his back and took a ton of cash out of the family safe and, paid somebody without his approval. So he's all about the money too.
Right. And can you imagine her just saying, he was the one. What is Donna saying, that it was his idea to go to Vietnam?
Yeah. She's trying to say,
so how could he, so how can he be such a doddering old fool, but yet he has the ability to plan, an exotic vacation to Vietnam? I mean, Vietnam is not, a vacation to the Caribbean or something from Florida. So it's a little bit of a hike. It takes some physical abilities and that kind of thing. He, even at the airport, he had enough gumption to say, Yeah, don't take her phone from her, that kind of thing. He stood
Yeah.
up. He didn't seem that feeble to me. And it wasn't his brain cancer. Was it really cancer? Was it?
No, he didn't. I was joking. Yeah,
Right.
because Wendi said that
Right.
her father was a brain cancer survivor, which
Right.
again, Fancy Fixin through a source told us no, that's a total lie. He had some sort of benign acoustic neuroma, which was
Right.
resolved. He had a little bit of hearing loss, but he didn't have brain cancer. It was Wendi exaggerating things to get sympathy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Wendi tells Donna the bad news and doesn't say where my grandkids are. Yeah, you're right. It just seems so fast. That phone call between Wendi and Donna, the more you hear it, the more it seems contrived. Because
But
a
didn't she
normal
start
person,
out saying to
Mom, sit
Donna,
down.
I'm okay, the kids are
Kids are
okay?
okay.
Oh.
Isn't that the very first thing she said?
It was. It
Uh-huh.
was. Yeah.
Mhm. And tells her mom to sit down. But
Yeah,
it
I
just
know.
still doesn't seem normal because just like with Wendy's reaction, most people would want to know more details. Like, where was
Right.
she shot? Where did it happen? Was he burglarized, or was he held up at gunpoint, or just
Right.
more
More
questions?
questions. Well,
Yeah.
and I didn't understand, maybe I'm more callous than I should be, her saying, sit down. I mean, this is the son-in-law she despised. I don't know that you need to tell her to sit down because she's going to get this terrible news. As I say, I may be too callous here, but that just didn't ring
Right.
quite right to me, that opening. It sounded more like I'm speaking for the sake of the detective who's sitting here.
Right. Well, I need you to sit down because I know you want to celebrate and open a bottle of champagne right now.
Or bullet bourbon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know, is there anything else with Wendi on the side of certainly knowledge and involvement?
Well, this isn't actual proof or anything, but it kind of persuades me as an outsider. The fact that so many attorneys and people who knew Dan and Wendi, they think Wendi was involved. And these are people who actually have a lot more personal knowledge of the players. So when I listened to Lacasse's police interview again, towards the end, he mentioned a female mutual friend who had actually gone down to visit with Wendi after the murder. And that person apparently really was suspicious and felt that they were all involved and their behavior was so strange.
Yeah, that's what presumably Rob will be able to testify to. He can testify before the murder and I guess a little after. And Dan's friend from law school and after, his close friend. She's got several different degrees, and she gave that interview where she talked about how strange vibe she was getting from everybody the day of the I guess it was the service, the memorial.
Yeah. And so much of it that I think we all have been discussing today and last week, it kind of speaks to just the whole idea that who is the biggest beneficiary of this, and including Lacasse talking about how that's all. I mean, that was one of the first things he said. Those parents wanted her in South Florida more than anything, basically. I'm not quoting, but about that. And the hatred that they had toward him and that she had. It wasn't that the family had this hatred and Wendi was like, oh, that's so sad. It was like they
she
all
participated.
had it.
She
Yes,
egged them on. She
did.
hated him too.
Yeah, she participated. Exactly.
Yeah. And do you remember that part in Jeff's interview where he said that Wendi always seemed like she was sort of scared or didn't want to be around Danny. So he
Oh.
thought that Dan Markel used to beat her because of the way she behaved and stuff.
Right.
So I'm starting to think, yeah, maybe she is that manipulative of a person that she deliberately just kept acting like so scared of Danny because it was all part of an act to get Jeff riled up against Dan and think, wow, this guy's such a jerk. He's so abusive. He's horrible. He like made her a house slave and, you know, did all these horrible things and was like dumping her with all these frivolous legal filings.
And it really worked because you could see how Jeff, it even till it took him until he got to trial where he wasn't still like thinking, oh, Wendy's going to win this. She's going to win the battle to bring the kids down to South Florida. She's going to win. Dan's going to lose. He was just this crazy guy who kept, you know, driving the judge crazy with all these extra motions. And he was ready to, he even said, I was ready to punch him or whatever he said.
Yeah.
And,
said a bunch of times that he wanted to kill him or kick his ass or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it worked. Like he was clearly manipulated, and it took him a long time to come out of that mindset to realize what really might have happened. He was infatuated, which is hard to believe. I don't see it, but yes. Mona sent me a video, I think it was last night. I forgot what channel it was, but it was kind of funny. She, you know, Mona and her sense of humor too. But it was these different clips of, and one of them was that Jeff being so, oh, she had this sexual aura or whatever it was. And then it showed a clip of her with her face, her crazy face on the stand with her hair all a mess. It was the second trial. So she was really not very well put together as the other trials. And those crazy eyes, and it was just pretty funny. I can't think, I'm sorry. Did she send that to you? It's the same, what was the name of that? I'll find it.
What's that, a YouTube video?
It was a YouTube video. Let me find it real quick. It was
okay.
Funny. It was, what's the name of him? Sorry. Loophole Lawyer. Loophole Lawyer is a Jewish lawyer.
Oh,
it's pretty funny.
He's a Jewish? No, he's Italian because he was my guest.
Oh, was he your guest? Okay, I thought he said in this he was Jewish.
I think he's joking because his wife is Jewish. So.
Because his Jewish mother-in-law. Yes.
Yeah, so don't always believe literally what he says because a lot of times, you know, like I really don't know this guy. So a couple of people wrote some negative comments about him after I had him playing Charlie. This was a sort of comedic jail call reenactment that we did last, I don't know, a week and a half ago or so. Yeah. So, so he gets on my show, but he kept like going totally off script and making all these punchy remarks, and some people were offended by some of his remarks and stuff. So I'm sorry for, you know, some of things that he might have said that offended people. And, well, anyway, so it's kind of hard because when people contact you, you have no idea who they are. And especially if they try to be really funny, sometimes you don't know that's their style of doing YouTube, or he just likes joking, like pretending like he's 1/17 Black, or, you know, these like ethnic cracks and stuff like that. So I even asked him, what is this about you being a light-skinned Black person? He was like, oh, I'm just joking because my stepmother is Jamaican or something. So so no, he is not a Jewish lawyer.
Okay. Anyway, it reminded me of that clip from Jeff being so enamored, based on some of the chat I'm reading here too. I've got multiple things going on in my head at once, as always. And Jeff then eventually evolving and getting out from under the spell, basically. Jeff did say, I knew that eventually she was going to move with the kids to Miami and our relationship would be over. She made that clear.
Yeah, that if she could move, then she would choose South Florida over him.
And he was
So,
sort of like thinking that was going to happen. Of course, he didn't think it was going to happen this way, but the way it did. But it was inevitably her plan,
mhm.
and he made it. It was embedded into his thinking about her and his memories of her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, not to spend too much time on this other person, but I think we're talking about how Charlie had that conversation with Donna about how Wendy's attractiveness on the dating market was getting worse and worse as she got older, because she's like this older lady in her late 30s with 2 children. So what man would want to date her? And if you give me a 37-year-old Victoria's Secret model with 2 kids, I would say no thanks. Yeah. So I think Vince in passing said something like, yeah, and I agree. So people felt like he was being offensive. Yeah. But I mean, I think for some men, I think that is the way they think. You know, if you're a divorcee and you try to go on these dating apps, from what I've heard, a lot of times these guys, they still think they're entitled to some hot looking woman in their 30s when they're a disgusting slob who's in their 50s, you know? Because my older sister is single now. She's divorced with 2 kids. So any single men out there interested who are well off and stuff. But so in a way, I wasn't really offended when Vince said that in passing, you know, because I think that is sort of reality, from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's reality.
How do you feel, Dawn? You know, I don't know.
I don't care. I really don't care. Everyone has their own right to, you know, be attracted to who they want to and live their life the way they want to. It doesn't defend me. Like, whatever. I don't care.
But I think it is true that in general, most older men who are single, they still want much younger women. So Charlie saying that, sure, it is offensive and stuff, but you know, if you tried to make it a little less offensive, it is sort of true.
It is what it is, the way it is. Like, it is what it is. And Charlie, to me, doesn't represent the kind of people that are in my circle. So I really don't care. Like, we just surround ourselves with people that aren't like Charlie, and we're good. Like,
don't hang around
that
with Charlie's attitudes. You know, where Charlie was talking about you know, Hispanic women getting fat, you know, once they pop out a kid and stuff. So yeah. But Katie, I think when Katie was on trial, she was 37. So that means she's about 40 now.
Mm-hmm.
Older than 40. It's more than 3 years since her trial.
Oh, that's true. A little bit more than 3 years.
Yeah. I know lawyers can't do math, but
41. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly Katie's birthday. Yeah. So once again, but although when Katie and Charlie were dating, you know, she was probably around 30ish or something.
And she had 2 children.
Yeah, but Katie said she knew it wasn't some sort of serious relationship. They're just having fun. You know, she was probably enjoying his money and him paying for all the nice dates and stuff. And he was enjoying the physical comforts of having a woman. So he didn't hang out with her kids anyway. She was just another person on his Rolodex. Until he found out that she had this baby daddy that could help him, you know.
Well, but that can't be right, because he didn't know that she was going to, you know, ask Sigfredo to do the murder. In fact, at least he professed to be very surprised about it, right? So, right?
He knew about Sigfredo. Yeah, that's true, because when he asked her on Halloween, do you know anyone who can harm somebody? It sounds like he didn't know.
And she said she was very careful not to tell him it was Sigfredo, and not to tell Sigfredo that it was Charlie who was asking.
Well,
'Cause
that
she
kind of
didn't think
makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense because Sigfredo hated Charlie.
right.
Yeah, he was jealous of him.
Yeah, that had to be some kind of juggling act that she was doing there for a while because
Yeah, see how evil she is? She's just as conniving as Charlie.
yeah.
Yeah. So she could have been the one that told Sigfredo that this is for Wendi. Here's a picture of her, or who knows if they met. I don't
Well,
know.
she had to have conveyed whatever that was in that envelope that Charlie did about who was going to be killed. She had to have given that to Sigfredo.
Yeah.
And I assume then, she might very well, you're right, have mentioned it was for the lady in Tallahassee with the two
Right.
kids.
And for up until then, you could maybe make the argument that Coas and DeCoste were making that it was Katie that was putting him in touch with Luis, not Sigfredo, or Luis through Sigfredo. But it doesn't sound like there'd be any way to continue to defend that kind of argument that they had.
Well, and I don't think that argument makes any sense anyway. If she's involved, it doesn't matter whether she's getting Sigfredo to do the hit or Luis to do the hit. She's still the person who's connecting the money person with the murderer. It doesn't matter who the murderer is.
Right.
Just
Right.
connecting them.
Does that somehow make her better? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Angela. I knew Angela knew exactly how old Katie is.
Oh, what
Okay.
is
It can't be 3 years ago because
It is.
Charlie was prosecuted 2 years ago, wasn't he?
2023?
Yeah, but Katie's trial was May 2022,
Really?
which is 3 years ago.
Huh.
Yeah,
3
her second
years
one.
and
Yep.
a couple
Okay.
of months. Yeah. So look
So
who
2022
Charlie's
40.
kids.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Didn't Charlie smile at Wendi thinking, yeah, that was weird. Where Charlie told Donna that he saw Wendi, but he didn't know it was Wendi at first. So he thought it was some hot girl who was like flirting with him or kept looking at him in the courtroom. So Dan Frashbaum had to rein him in and say, stop looking over there. Yeah, that's just weird. Yeah.
How do we know that, though? How do we know that? How would we know that to be? Because Dan Rathbaum would be the only person that could say that is what happened.
Or Charlie.
Or
Charlie.
Right. And they haven't. So how do we know that?
I think Charlie talked about it, didn't he, on one of those phone calls?
Oh,
Thought that she, that he saw her and didn't recognize her.
Yeah, that was enough. Donna.
Yeah. But do we know that he was looking at her like she was some kind of
some hot babe?
Yeah.
Well, it could be because he was probably so excited after being in jail for so long. Yeah. It's like, oh, there's some blonde chick sitting way over there and she keeps looking at me. Yeah. Okay. Oh, question for the professor. Could Chris DeCoste cross-examine of Wendi cut into her use immunity, or is it only valid for questions from the prosecution? Yeah, I think just a prosecution.
Yeah, it's only the prosecution. The Wendi can get immunity because she claims that to provide information or to testify might tend to incriminate her. And the Fifth Amendment says you can't, the state, the government cannot force somebody to be a witness against herself. Chris Lacoste is not the state. He's not the prosecutor. He's a private citizen representing another private citizen. So she doesn't have to answer a question on cross that might tend to incriminate her. She still has the privilege and can still assert it, but anything that he asks her can't affect her immunity. The only effect on the immunity comes from the state asking her a question.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay. So Jared says Charlie knew Sigfredo. Well, I know he knew it later.
Ultimately, yeah.
Yeah, but at the time that the murder was being planned, did
Yeah, I
Charlie
don't think
know
so. Not if you
Sigfredo
believe
was trying to do
Katie.
it? Yeah, but once
Yeah,
again, she did
that's a
seem
stretch.
very awful during her proffers.
Well, but
So,
besides Katie,
Yeah.
certainly Sigfredo, it's hard to believe Sigfredo would have done it to help her lover.
yeah,
So clearly, I think she's telling the truth when she said she didn't tell Sigfredo. And it's also a little hard to believe, I think, that Charlie would have been inclined to pay the father of her kids, with whom she had an off again, on again relationship, the person who went after him at one point because he was jealous, that he trust him to do the hit. So I kind of believe her here.
Charlie knows now. Yes.
You know, I was thinking last night that when Luis and Sigfredo were arrested, it must have thrown all the Adelsons into a real panic. It must have just, you talk about the worst days in your lives, that had to be up there at the very top, because until that point, they probably thought they were home free. And
Right.
then the hitmen are arrested, and they've got to know that, the connection to Katie is going to come out, and that, the police, the law enforcement, we're going to go after them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That explains how Charlie had so much anxiety that
Yes.
he was taking lots of
Yeah.
Xanax, and Donna had to nonstop diarrhea at 2 in the morning. And, the father missed a day of work because he was so stressed out or something.
And wasn't that when Wendi started telling Sarah she was going to be arrested, she was going to be in prison the rest of her life, or wasn't that then? Yeah.
No,
Yeah, they all,
she,
or was that
no,
earlier?
Sarah, yeah, that was much earlier
Much
because
earlier.
from
So
what
she was
Sarah
already
said,
panicked.
yeah, she was already panicking and saying, I'm going to prison for the rest of my life. I think it was the first time Sarah and Sarah's husband went to see Wendi to console her after Dan was killed. Yeah. And isn't that's like the weirdest thing to say if you weren't
Right.
involved in your former spouse's murder? Why would you think you're going to go to prison for the rest of your life?
Exactly.
And why would that be? Remember, she said they had to race to Miami because she was afraid for the kids' lives. She had to change their names because she was afraid for the kids' lives. And yet what she's panicked about telling her close friend is that she's going to be arrested, not that she's worried that there's this hit person out after the Adelsons and her children are, her children's safety is at risk.
Right.
I'll bet there's nothing, I shouldn't say this, but I'm willing to guess there's nothing in what she told Sarah Youssef that relates to being afraid for the life of the kids, which again is a negative. I mean, it's if you were so afraid, why is it that what you're talking about is you might get arrested and not, we're not safe anywhere.
Yeah.
And
That's
in
right.
such contrast to her arrogance on the stand, I'll never be arrested. I'm not going to be arrested. She's so confident, but that's not what she was like in her personal life, in her private life.
Okay, everybody's telling us Charlie said it in one of the jail calls.
Said
that,
what? Oh,
that he knew
that
it
she
was
was surprised.
Sigfredo? Huh?
Oh, are we talking about said it that he knew who went, or he thought Wendi was some hot girl, or?
Yeah, see, that's the problem with the chat. It's like I'm
I know.
slowly reading all the comments.
You don't know what the
of
it is.
What's it?
Okay, everyone's saying it's on the jail calls.
Okay.
That's right. In one of his phone calls to his mother, he said it. Yeah, he
We
said
know
he
that,
didn't know.
yes.
We know that. But what about, did Charlie know at the time of the murder that Sigfredo was going to do the killing? Let's scroll
We'll see
down.
if anybody remembers. I don't remember him ever saying that, but I will defer to people who.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Jared is very
Charlie
knew early on.
knowledgeable.
So what does
Sigfredo
early
didn't-
on mean, Jared? Before the killing, right after the killing?
Did Katie say yes to him? I know somebody who would hurt somebody else, and say who she meant. Like, did she say
No,
the secret, or
I'm
she
pretty
didn't?
sure she never said who, or she never said she said who.
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
Okay. Let's scroll down and see if there's any responses. Okay, don't see any response yet. Okay. Okay, see, there are so many questions here, and sometimes things get mixed up because sometimes people are spreading false information and all that. So, yeah. Okay. How long was it before Sigfrido and Lewis were caught? Well, Sigfrido was arrested around May 26th of 2016, and Lewis was also charged around the same time, but he was already in prison for his drug charges. So they probably thought they were home free too, because that's a long time, year and a half.
2 years. Yeah, almost 2
Yeah.
years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, I did want to address some things because a lot of times people in the comments have said if they're going to arrest Wendi, they would have done so by now. So, anybody want to address that question or comment?
Yeah, I'll take a run at it. The state clearly believed they needed her testimony in the earlier trials. If they had arrested her, they were never going to get her testimony, or I don't see that they would have gotten her testimony. So I think it's perfectly explainable why she was not arrested and charged earlier, without regard to whether the state thought they had enough evidence to do it. I mean, that may be their reason, but there's certainly a reason in the information and in the progression of these trials that's independent of saying the state just never thought they had enough to prosecute her.
That's why I'm wondering what is so important that she's going to be testifying to in Donna's trial. I mean, the emails, I guess she has to confirm the emails that went from Donna to her.
The whole litigation case and how
The
it
divorce
involves
stuff.
All about
her
the
loss.
litigation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they need to bring up the crime scene visit? Because what would that have to do with Donna?
The what? I'm sorry, Don, I didn't
The
hear
crime
you.
scene visit, the drive-by?
Well, remember, Charlie said he thought it was that evidence that got him convicted, or was
Right.
one of the most important pieces of the evidence that got him convicted. So if
How
he's
so?
right.
Is he right, though? How so? Or is that just him blaming his sister?
Well,
It's
could
just
be.
him ranting on about the same thing, because he was hemming and hawing about Georgia Kaplan, just twisting the facts and highlighting a few choice things that didn't even involve him, but somehow he got convicted. So,
But she brings in directly brings in the divorce. She brings in directly that of course she denies it, but that she was miserable in Tallahassee. She is the one who is going to say that she knew he was not going to be in town that that period of time. I'm trying to think what else she would say. It's possible that on most of the evidence somebody else could have brought it in, but clearly the state felt the case was stronger having her on the stand saying, and she's been so unlikable on the stand that I think she helps the prosecution case just by being unlikable.
That's what I was wondering you were saying.
Yeah.
It's exactly
I've
what
said that too. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. Which is funny. But I just find that hilarious because she thinks she's so charming.
Well, I would tell law students all the time when they were talking about closing arguments and opening statements. And I said, you got to have the evidence, obviously. You have to have a theory of the case, obviously. You've got to be prepared, obviously. But when you go up to address the jury, what you should be saying to yourself is, like me, please like me. Right. Because you want the fact finder to say, boy, I really love this person and I would like to be able to decide the way this person wants it. It isn't that they're going to do it because they like you, but it's a tipping, and if they really like you, they're going to trust you more. And that's what you need from a jury. You want them to like you, trust you, listen to what you say. It's a real advantage. People who are likable have a huge advantage in life from the rest of us, very clearly.
That's true.
Yeah, but what's funny is that Charlie and Wendy both think that they're very likable, but they just came across as so insincere and phony and smug.
Yeah.
So basically, the prosecution is saying to the jury, look at this unlikable person who hated her ex-husband so much to have him murdered, even though she's not the one on trial, and it's working against the rest of the.
But she's the deus ex machina. She got it all started. You can picture her. It's believable.
Yeah.
She got her mother to do it. She got her brother to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not there to try her, so they don't know. They don't know if she's been tried yet or will be tried or any of those things, theoretically.
Yeah. Okay. So what's your opinion? I would say no, based on what Katie has said. She said they offered, but she and her brother rejected their offer to pay. So what do you guys personally think?
I would say no, partly for that and partly because I heard that short interview with Coas, one of Katie's lawyers, when James Mentor lawyer asked her, I think it was he who asked her, and she said, I keep saying we were not paid and nobody wants to believe me, we were not paid. She could not have been more emphatic about it. So I believe her. I mean, I can't imagine why anyone would, face the public and say publicly as emphatically as she did, it didn't happen. And of course, they had that in-camera hearing before, what was it, the first trial, where the judge explored it and concluded that, there wasn't evidence to support the idea that the Adelsons paid. Now, if Katie said they offered and her family refused, I mean, I don't know. That to me is also peculiar. If I were being tried for murder and there was this rich family out there that would say, we'll pay for your lawyer, I would jump at it, particularly if my family didn't have much money.
Right, because
that's true.
Especially because the brother had his hands full with his wife being on trial, or being charged at the same time. So why wouldn't they accept that help?
Right. And the lawyer's ethical responsibility, it doesn't matter who pays you, your responsibility is to your client. And that's the person you have to zealously defend and represent. And you can't let the fact that somebody else is paying for it have any effect. Now, maybe Katie's family didn't believe it, but boy, I would have taken the money to get, somebody to pay for that defense.
Of course. Yeah, I'm on the fence about it. I don't think we'll ever know unless that hearing ever gets unsealed.
Yeah, but even then, as people say, the Adelsons allegedly like to do things in very underhanded ways. So who knows, maybe somebody gave money to Katie's brother and then Katie's brother paid her attorneys. Because it does make you wonder, like if both Sigfredo and Katie were so broke that they hardly had money in their checking accounts and stuff, then how did Sigfredo hire an attorney either? I don't know. He didn't get a court-appointed attorney.
Right.
So, yeah. So that's why I'm kind of eager to see.
Isn't her brother on the witness list for the state this time? So maybe they'll ask him and he'll be under oath.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because recently Mentor Lawyer re-premiered his interview of the police interview with Francis McPanua. And so in that video, Francis was acting like he was totally clueless. He had no idea what's going on with anything and that he didn't have any contact with the Adelsons, except he said he met Charlie once briefly at a party. So that's what he said, but who knows what the truth was.
Well, they were living in Miami and Charlie, I know they were all in Miami. I take that back. Yep. I suppose they could have met.
Yeah. So, let's see. Oh, and speaking of the sister-in-law, yeah, when I interviewed Yintra Velasquez, she said that Katie's former sister-in-law was out of prison, but then very recently, Mentor Lawyer said in his video about Samantha that she's still in prison. So I checked the inmate records, and sure enough, she is still in prison for embezzling from her CPA employer. And I think she's supposed to get out in spring of 2028. So
Wow.
that's another side story, but it is
Right.
pretty weird how she took so much money from an accounting firm of all places.
Right. And then didn't they say she was like spending it on
On the witch,
yeah.
yeah, the spiritual advisor, the
Yes.
spiritual healer who took $600,000 from her. That is so weird.
Crazy. That's
Yeah,
wild.
I know. And it goes to show how weird everybody is because supposedly Katie introduced that spiritual healer to her sister-in-law.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I
Wow.
wished I could sweet talk somebody out of $600,000 voluntarily. I mean, you
Sure.
have to be a pretty good talker to. No, I think, or maybe that person was threatening Samantha, like, I'm going to put curses on you, or you're going to have curses if you don't hire me to be your spiritual healer.
There's a little bit of that in a trial that I'm going to be watching here locally that's been postponed multiple times, but it's crazy what people do. It's you know what? I think they're a Filipino family as well, Filipino American too. Maybe they're just inclined to use that type of thing. I don't know. Just thought of that.
Not that I know of, but yeah. Yeah, and plus,
Trina is great. I love Trina K too, Georgia.
oh, that's the prosecutor in the
Arizona. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, in the Arizona trials. Yes. The case, Tanya, is California versus Larry Milete, and his wife is Maya Milete, and her body still hasn't been found.
Yeah, I do recall hearing a little bit. Isn't that down in San Diego?
Yep.
Yeah, where the poor wife got killed and everyone suspects the husband.
Yes, and I'm going to be on my channel replaying the pre-trial. In California, the pre-trial is almost like a little mini trial. It's different here, and it's kind of wild. And I'd like to replay that sometime, maybe after Donna's trial. And he's been moved so many times, but it's supposed to be January of this coming year. So, and I'd like to attend that one if possible, at least some days. So, yeah, you're welcome, Tanya. Yeah. It's an important case down here where I live. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, okay. Didn't Charlie send something for Sigfredo's birthday after the murder? Yeah, he definitely, I mean, he had no problems with Sigfredo. That's why it's crazy that he claimed that he was being extorted by Sigfredo and Lewis or Latin King people. Because
what was the thing about them going scuba diving together?
Deep sea diving, I think that was a joke. That was just Charlie being funny when he texted Katie and said, "Oh yeah, Sigfrid, he asked me to go deep sea fishing with him." Yeah, I think that was a joke. That's just the way Charlie talks. He is just kind of weird and likes to say things that aren't true. And yeah,
which is kind of what Katie was saying when she was on the stand. You never really knew what he was talking about because he used a lot of words. You never knew what he was saying. And yes, I forgot who asked that, but Larry does finally have a new attorney. The pre-trial is going to be with his former attorney, which is why I'm going to run it because it's hilarious.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dawn. It's great to hear about other cases through these other true crime channels. There's so much going on.
There is. It's sad, but this one got my attention because it's more or less local, and there were many search parties, looking for her. They still haven't found her. A lot of scuttlebutt about where she may be. But in any case.
Yeah. So we'll check out Dawn's channel too. It's Dawn Taquisto. So Please subscribe to her also. Let's see. What was it?
Harley said deep sea fishing meant Sigfredo was going to kill Charlie and dump him. Oh, that's what it was.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Well, there's
As
a
one does.
rumor. Let me give you guys some dirt or rumor behind the scenes. So, from what I heard, there was a rumor that Charlie could have been involved with killing the ex-husband of one of his ex-girlfriends. And this person who strongly suspected Charlie of it had been trying to persuade the police to investigate, but nothing came of it. So this is just what I've heard behind the scenes. So
Wow.
take it for what it's worth. I mean, Charlie's already locked up in life. I mean, locked up in prison for life.
Right.
And I'm sure his appeal is not going to be successful. So,
And apart from appeals, life is life, right? In Florida, there's no parole opportunity for him.
Right.
He's without parole in his case.
yeah.
Yeah.
Although
Not
his appeals aren't over yet. I mean,
Right.
the state still hasn't filed their response.
Right.
Yeah. Wasn't kind of going off tangent, but wasn't there some case in the news recently about another dentist, like a dentist killing his spouse through poisoning? Or
James
something?
Craig, is it Craig?
Yeah. Yeah.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Are you all
He's
following
another.
that?
He's another smart defendant. Let us say he ordered poison through the mail, and he had it delivered to the office. And he also then went in his he would wear the blues or whatever, you know, what are the scrubs? But he was a dentist to whatever the warehouse was to pick up the poison. And he also left a trail of very incriminating evidence. He had 2 of his kids testify against him, I think, today. And that's got to be so hard on children.
Oh.
So incredibly hard.
How old are the kids?
I think they were early teens. And he wanted, in fact, one of them testified that he wanted her to help him create a false story.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just awful.
Is that
Sure.
being live streamed or not?
No,
I didn't think so.
I think if you're a content creator, that you can register media credentials because it is being streamed to the media apparently, but not beyond the media.
Gotcha. So
So
you could watch it and then commentate on it, but
That's
not
right.
broadcast.
That's right.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's too much going on. And I also heard this case about this Indian female pediatrician from the Midwest who took her kid on a vacation to Florida to some sort of Airbnb. And then she acted like the kid had drowned in a swimming pool, but oh no, I can't go rescue her because I don't know how to swim. Yeah. So, of course, they recovered the child's body and realized the child had been killed prior to being dumped in the pool. So, that pediatrician has now been arrested. So, it's another Florida murder case.
Wow.
Yeah, but she had just been going through a bad custody dispute with her ex-husband, the kid's father. And
So the answer is you're having a custody dispute because you want custody, and if you think you're going to lose, you murder your child. There's logic.
I don't get it. I don't know what was
Was
going
it to
on.
punish him?
I guess so. Yeah, it must have been like you're not going to take her away from him, but I'm just going to kill the kid to get back at you or something.
Oh.
Well,
don't
isn't
know.
that sort of, although I think he may have been mentally disturbed, the father who murdered the 3 little girls, who's now hiding somewhere in the wilderness? We haven't found him yet.
Yeah.
That it was a divorce, and the wife had been back to court to say he should only have supervised visitation because he was living in a shelter, and he brought the little girls in, and they're only men, and they're, and they were homeless men, and then he left them and went somewhere, and maybe, I don't know what he was doing. And it was after that on, I think was one of the visitations after that he took the girls and strangled them, I think, all 3 little girls. It's just awful.
What's
awful.
the name of that person? Do you
What
recall?
is his name?
Yeah, he's still at large.
Yeah, and the pictures of the little girls are so cute. They're always dressed, just really cute and smiling all the time. I don't remember his name. He's a former military, I believe.
Mm.
So they think he's got wilderness skills and can, if he's still alive, if he didn't off himself.
Right.
Can you find it? I can probably
I'm
Google
looking.
this.
Yeah, just seeing if anyone has responded. Sorry, we're behind on the chat and questions, but Sula wants to know, Kate, Charlie paid for one of Katie's boob jobs, and she paid for the other one. Well, she paid for one of them while he paid for the other breast. So they split it in half. But I think they only last 10 to 15 years. Will she be entitled to have them out or change if she's locked up for life? I think so, if it's necessary, because aren't the prisoners still entitled to medical care? So, Joe, do you know?
Necessary medical care. So I was looking up the name of the person, so I didn't hear the last part.
Sorry.
It's Travis Decker.
There you go. There you go.
But are you asking, they won't pay for a boob job. They have to do elective surgery, but if she got an infection because she had it, sure, then they'd have to take care of it.
Complications. Yeah. Judy, are you on mute?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, so the taxpayers could have to pay for Katie to have her, fake implants taken out or something done.
If they were, if it was a medical necessity, but if she just decided she didn't want them anymore, no, you don't have to pay for cosmetic surgery or non-necessary, medical help. You don't get to decide what the medical assistance should be for what your situation is. I remember Donna, she had the back pain and they were willing to give her Tylenol. I don't remember what else they wanted to do, and she wanted more than that. So you don't get to dictate what it is you want for whatever the medical condition is. But if it's a necessary treatment, they will treat it. Otherwise, it would be cruel and unusual punishment. And you got a constitutional right to be treated,
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, oh my gosh, it's already been 2 hours. I totally lost track of time again. And yeah, remember that man that said we were talking too much? Joe, I think we had a live stream where somebody wrote a snippy comment that said, okay, ladies, what a lovely conversation, but I got better things to do and I'm busy. Isn't
that why we're here? I don't know.
I think people enjoy it. There's like tons of comments we still haven't even gotten to. Yeah, I thought the brother seemed evasive. I mean, he was trying to be nice and cooperative, but, he did also seem a bit evasive. Yeah, shoot. Okay. No, DeCoste was not Francis's wife's attorney, but DeCoste supposedly was Francis's attorney that day that, was it Sanford? Sanford wanted to interview Francis.
Right.
So he kept saying, I need to wait for my attorney. I'd be willing to tell you everything and cooperate, but I want to wait for my attorney. But they just kept talking to him.
Yeah.
That's very common. I don't remember, did DeCoste ever show up? Didn't he say like be there?
In the video, at the very end of the video, you can see the back of his head.
Okay.
I think it's the back of his head when Francis is being interviewed by, is it Sanford at that point? Because there were 2 law enforcement people in the room and you can see him. And earlier you can hear him on the phone because Francis phoned him and you can hear him talking to Francis on the phone. But he did show up ultimately.
Yeah.
That's a good illustration, by the way, of lawyer conflict, because at that point, wasn't he representing Katie?
Yes.
Yeah. And so you can represent 2 people. You can theoretically represent 2 people in the same family. But if there's a conflict between their interests, and so if he's telling Francis, don't talk to law enforcement, when it might be in Francis's interest to provide information. And the reason he's doing it, because it might hurt Katie's chances, that's an example of a conflict of interest, lawyer conflict. Can't do it.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Well, it sounded like Agent Sanford really just wanted Frances to talk to Katie and get it through her thick head that,
Right.
you know, she needed to save herself instead of protecting the
Right.
Adelsons. So who knows if Frances ever did that.
Yeah, he was probably pretty overwhelmed at the time, so who knows what he did.
Yeah.
That was a lot. Is the trial starts, the trial date is August 21st. Is that when they start with jury selection?
No,
Or is
we have jury selection on the, what is it, the 17th or the 19th?
19th.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but jury selection, I can anticipate it taking at least 3 or 4 days because in Charlie's case, I think it took 3 days to get the jury.
But in Charlie's case, they had those high-powered
Yeah.
yeah.
attorneys from New York who, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't really add much value.
no,
And
they
I
did
think,
not.
I think they kind of turned off more people.
Yeah. And I would not be surprised at all as after voir dire, the defense remakes the motion that there has to be a change of venue.
Right.
And, you know, we'll have to see, but that might take a little time also if that happens.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So the owl shirt, I still think that there was significance because just again, based on what Cass said and what we've seen, Wendy does like to pull the wool over people's eyes or kind of like get at people with these symbolic things. So I don't think it's a coincidence that she wore that shirt with an owl on it the day that Dan was murdered.
Right.
And also bought the bullet. So I still don't believe that that was just something she happened to be told to buy for a party that day. I don't know. We'll wait and see. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a weird coincidence.
Yeah, that's another thing. I don't know if we'll ever really know. We'll never have any. I don't see her ever come out and say, "Yeah, I did that." It's like, in the trial, it's supposed to be a 3 weeks trial.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, they're just guessing.
Right.
But you know, but I think Donna is probably going to have more witnesses than Charlie did. Because Charlie just had himself and the divorce attorney.
Right. Charlie's never-ending testimony and cross.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody was asking in the chat. I thought they were planning on approximately 3 weeks.
Yeah, that sounds about right, but we have no idea what could happen. But I really doubt the venue is going to be changed. I don't think most people care as much about this case like we do.
I'd be surprised if there's a successful change of venue motion. Very surprised.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's pretty unusual. That trial I was talking about earlier, Kentucky versus Brooks House, they did have a change of venue. And unfortunately, the judge wouldn't allow that to be live streamed either. But in that case, the crimes happened in a very tiny little town.
Yeah.
I think the population was maybe 900 or something. So, and the House family and the Ballards are fairly well-known people in the town. So it's understandable why they would have changed that venue.
Yeah, and the cases that Donna's lawyers cited, none of them were really particularly relevant at all. They were either very tiny towns or in the case of Kohlberger, the courtroom could not accommodate the trial, the size of the trial, or the security needs. And that was independent of, could you seat an independent, impartial jury? So I really, and Tallahassee is a university town. What is it? 3 universities there. So there's a lot of movement of people. So over the 10 or 11 years, I don't know what the numbers would be, but there's got to be a large number of people in Tallahassee in 2025 who were not there in 2013 or 14 or even in 2020. So
Yeah. Okay. What are the personal views on trials being broadcast, are good or bad thing? I like it. I mean, maybe it's because we find it so fascinating, and it is sort of entertaining at times, like when people are acting stupid representing themselves, like Lori Daybell, or what was that guy's name? Daryl Brooks. Yeah, that made for some hilarious things, and it's real life, like, but I think it's important also so people know exactly what's going on with the justice system.
I agree. It's educational. It's part of our government. You might find yourself one day being a victim or a family member who is involved as a victim or in a crime, unfortunately. And it's really good to know how everything works, quite honestly. And I think it's super educational. It's a privilege. It's a civic. I think it's. I really appreciate Florida's open. What do they call it?
Sunshine laws.
Sunshine laws. Yeah, just we have sunshine. We can see what's going on in the legal system. I like it.
I agree. And I think it also, I agree with everything you both said, but I think it also avoids, I don't know that I'd call it conspiracy theories, but, feelings that something went wrong at the trial or somebody was rich, got off, or somebody who was not connected got railroaded. Because if you can actually see the trial and what happened, you have a much better understanding of what the jury saw and a much better understanding of why the verdict was what it was, even if you disagree with it. So I think it's all good. We have a right to a public trial, which runs to the defendant, but it also runs to the public. And the only difference now is you don't have to be in the courtroom to be able to be a member of the public who gets to view, a trial when the government is, trying somebody. So I agree with everything you said, and I would just add those comments.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, great. Okay. Any, yeah. Oh, the witness list now with the new revised, whatever order it was that the judge recently signed, the witness list isn't due till the 21st, which is what, Monday?
Right.
Yeah. So
And they're also going to hear the motions, so it'll be whatever the motions are that are left should be heard on the 21st also.
Oh, I thought that was the deadline. Yeah, I think that's the deadline for filing. Let me bring it up real fast.
Yeah, but aren't they having a hearing on the 21st? Am I wrong?
I don't think so.
Okay, then I'm
It
just wrong.
says all pretrial motions must be filed on or before Monday,
Okay, I'm
July
wrong.
21st. Yeah. Any motions not filed on this date are subject to being deemed as waived, and the witness list, exhibit list, and demonstrative exhibits have to be provided to opposing counsel and the court by the 21st. Final pretrial hearing is August 8th at 9. No further extensions shall be granted without good cause presented. Yeah, the judge definitely seemed kind of mad and fed up the last time. What did he say? It's like the dates
Jello?
are
Was it
moving
Jello?
Jello,
Jello?
moving
Yeah,
Jello
Jello.
targets.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah. So, oh, here's another question. Okay, we're going to be here all night. Okay, I swear we will end soon. Okay, when will we see? Okay, so that's going to be July 21st.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the last answer by Judy would tell you that she's in a better position, Jared, to answer this question.
Okay. Well,
So, Judy, will you go live with the defense list? Will you go?
If
Usually do.
Shoot. Yeah, I actually have a couple of work meetings that day, so I don't know. I mean, but maybe Jo will run a SDS show by herself again, which was great.
I had a good
loved
time
it.
doing it. I wouldn't mind doing it again.
Yeah, you need to do your own YouTube show and stuff. But until then,
Yeah.
we're so grateful and privileged to have you join different YouTube channels that
Well,
are
thank
covering
you.
Dan's case.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, so helpful.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like I need to buy you a gift. So what would
No,
you like
no,
for
no,
your
no.
big
It's a
birthday
gift to
present?
be able to come on and talk about things that interest me. So
Oh.
I'm privileged to be invited. So thank
Okay.
you.
Let me know when your birthday is so I can get you a big birthday present. That's not paella or the murder of someone.
Or my murder. I wouldn't like that either.
Yeah. Oh, wait a second. We can't laugh because sometimes people get offended if we're laughing. So,
You
I mean,
know,
it's
who
hard.
was
I'm
it?
sorry.
Was it with the Circuit Barnum who said you can, he said you can fool some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time. I think that reverse is also true. You cannot run a program that's the least bit provocative or where there are different opinions without some people who are watching either not enjoying it or being offended about it. And that's the way it is. We have different perspectives. We have different points of view. And I think it's almost impossible to satisfy everybody. And, what's good about it is somebody who is not happy with it will watch some other show.
Yeah. They'll find their place.
Right.
They'll find their people.
Okay, so the next hearing is the 8th. And I think if Wendi is arrested, then who else is there to make a deal against her father? I don't think they're going to give her a deal.
No, I don't
For
think
what?
so either.
Yeah. No, not after 10 years. No.
Yeah.
No,
or
because you're right.
again,
What would the deal be? I mean, what does she have to offer?
Right.
If her mother is convicted, which I think will happen, what does she have to offer?
I mean,
You don't get a deal.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
What?
I thought you were done. I was just going to say the only thing that she could do is just plead guilty and not have a trial.
Right.
That would be a deal. Like technically, that would be a plea.
But I don't
think
think
it
that
wouldn't be a deal.
Right.
Yeah. I don't see that happening. Okay. One more question, and we're really ending it because it's way past 2 hours. Okay, how come when Charlie called his mommy after his conviction, you did not once hear either him or Donna say, "What, we didn't do this," or "I didn't kill them"? Yeah, because he knows he did it. Deep down inside, he knows. They know the truth. So, and that's why I would still like to highlight that weird message that Donna sent to Wendi, where she said, "Now you're not guilty." She was so mad after Charlie's conviction. And once again, we just have to thank Deep Dive True Crime for mentioning that. Well, I think I closed the document, but you guys remember the strange text where she told Wendi, like, everybody's been protecting you all these years, and your lawyer has advised you well, and Charlie has protected you all these years. Now you're not guilty. I mean, that's
So why, if she feels that way, doesn't she just, tell what she knows about Wendi? It's very frustrating.
because she still cares about her own personal reputation. She
Well,
can't
that
have
is true.
the grandchildren that she actually cares about, knowing that she's a murderer and she conspired to kill off their father.
Their father. That's an extraordinarily good answer. So
yeah, she still cares about how people feel about her and her high and mighty reputation of being the wonderful 5-star mother of this perfect.
Well, then why doesn't Charlie, once his appeals run, I know why he wouldn't do it now, because he doesn't have a 5-star reputation, and he certainly doesn't care about his nephews the way Donna cares about her grandchildren. So,
yeah.
And why Sigfredo is still sitting in prison, not telling what he knows. I mean, I wish I could give advice to people about what would be in their best interest to do. Because in this case, there's certainly more than one who is not. And of course, Katie tops the list. She could have been out from day one raising her kids.
Right.
And instead, she's sitting in prison with a life sentence for reasons that escape me entirely. First trial, I understand she didn't want to implicate the father of her children, but subsequently, she went through the second trial and didn't, before she then started to talk. And Sigfredo, his appeals have just now run. I suppose he can try for the Supreme Court of the state. Why doesn't he do something to get the mother of his kids out to raise the kids? So I don't understand it. But
it's really hard to understand beyond the explanation of that people have a hard time admitting that they've murdered or been part of a murder. It's just dumb. It's just all so dumb. It's hard to accept, for sure. You're right.
Okay. Any parting comments, you guys?
Well, I think we've exhausted this subject. So
I feel like
anybody has any questions about why
possible.
why we think Wendi was involved, check it out. And hey to those who are replaying later on, thanks for watching.
And I guess my only comment would be that I really do think that Judy does a really wonderful job on her channel. And I hope you all will continue to watch her. And maybe some of you will actually have the time to be able to watch some or all of the trial.
Yes.
Which would be nice. And Dawn, you know, I could invite them to your channel too, but I have not seen, except for, you know, 1 or 2 episodes, you know, what your coverage is. But I'm sure from the way I hear you here that yours is certainly well worth watching and listening to also. Now, the people in the chat probably think they have other things they have to do, like, you know, work and raise families. And but,
well, thank you, Joe. And you have the keys to my channel anytime you like. Judy has the sign in as well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Anytime you want.
Yeah. Great meeting you guys. And this is thanks again to Dan Markel. Actually, just a few hours ago, I was grocery shopping at Whole Foods in the bread area. And lo and behold, this woman like comes up to me and she's like, "Excuse me, are you and I'm like, is this a former client of mine? You know, because I've had so many clients in the last 25 years that I can't remember them. So, and she was like, "Are you Asian American Legal Focus?" And I was like, "Huh?" And she was like, "Oh, I watch your YouTube channel." Whoa. You know, so I think she's out there watching right now, but this is just so crazy that someone local to me actually watches this channel and she cares about the Dan Markel case. So again, this is just a testament to Dan Markel and how he was always bringing people together. It sounds like so many people were devastated when he was murdered. And that's why I'm showing one of his many blog posts where he just sounded like such a warm, happy person who loved his family. And he was so proud of his children. And that's what makes it so compelling to follow his case, because, you know, he was murdered to be kicked out of his children's lives when he was just such a great father. So anyway, just wanted to mention Dan again, since today is July 18th. So yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we probably really should get going. It's hard sitting here nonstop and stuff, and I'm just kind of starving here, but it's wonderful to talk to you guys and talk about this case that we're so into.
Yeah, that we care so much about. Thanks again, ladies. It's been my privilege. And
yeah, we'll do something again soon, I hope. Thank you.
And everybody have a nice weekend.
Yeah, have a great week. Maybe we'll talk next week about the new exhibit lists and witness lists.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Good night.
Have a great weekend.
Bye,
Take care.
chat.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for